Thank you for joining us. Today we're presenting finance and board-ready reports at your fingertips with Vena Solutions. My name is Melissa Waters, and I'm the manager of events and programs at JMT Consulting. Wanted to go through a couple housekeeping tips with you, and then I will turn it over to our presenter, Drew McDonald. First, this is being recorded, so if you have to hop off for any reason today, we will send you a copy of the recording following the webinar. If you have questions at all, there's a Q&A box at the bottom of your control panel. Make sure to submit your questions there, and we will answer them at the end of the webinar. And with that, I'm going to introduce Drew. Drew is joining us today from Vena Solutions, and we are so thankful that he is here. So I'll turn it over to you, Drew.
Awesome. Thank you. Hey everyone, I'm Drew McDonald. Been with Vena for roughly 2.5 years now, and I began as a consultant in the professional services team. So I was a part of a number of implementations ranging from budgeting and forecasting up to large-scale consolidations with multi-ERPs, multi-currencies. So a lot of exposure, and happy to share with you on reporting today. So just want to make sure everybody can see my screen here. Just gonna share a second. Can I get a thumbs up or an okay from you, Melissa, that you can see?
Yep, we can see it.
Perfect. Okay, so for today's focus, be it around reports and reporting packages for board meetings, I'm gonna stay high level on some different areas, but I still want to review some of the areas within the application so that everybody is familiar, just so I don't gloss over anything. And then I'll kind of dive into taking a look at data models so we can get a visual on how we structure our database. From there, I'll log in as what I would refer to as a business user. Some people might say an end user. It's within the contributor role of the application, and we'll open up some reports that we have built just to see the functionality of how we build reports, and then how the application does all that heavy lifting for us with regards to data aggregation or consolidation. And from there, I will open up a PowerPoint deck and a Word deck, and we can speak to how we connect reports that exist within our files library to PowerPoint decks, as well as Word decks, and make data tables and data visuals refresh, as well as specific words update based on what resides within our report. Obviously, values, looking to see things like that change. I also hope to speak to ad hoc report building, and then maybe briefly touch on Power BI. Okay. So just logging into a secure browser here, I am accessing Vena as a super user, as I would liken them to, because they have every single role within the application. And so to just do a quick review of the roles within Vena, we have our manager role, and this is really specific to an individual who's got responsibility for creating and maintaining different processes, whether it be month-end close process, a consolidation process, or an annual budget process. We also have the workflow within that screen, and this is where we maintain our files and our input templates and reports, where we build them, maintain them, inventory them from existing files that are part of individuals' processes. From there, we have that contributor role that I was speaking to, and that's where all individual tasks are assigned, as well as different report packages that individuals can access. The modeler role, that's data everything, so I'm going to step into there momentarily and just speak to the data model area within the application. Reports is our report publication tool. Then the admin role is very much data and application security permissions. Now, focusing within the modeler role, this is, again, data everything. And I just want to touch over this so that when we do start opening up reports, when we're speaking to different dimensions, well, then it kind of clicks back to what we're looking at here. Now, this is our data model. So these are the dimensions that make up our data model. And effectively, the way I liken this to is each of these dimensions is a column header from a extract that is coming from our source system. Okay, Now, not always is an extract going to match perfectly, so we have the capability to do integrations in the background just to do any sort of data transformations, parsing out dates to be able to associate a specific year or period to a value. Now, this is where we house our chart of accounts. So just expanding on some of these roll-ups, I can right-click in, expand our entire hierarchy here that resides under net income just to view all the different accounts as part of our business structure. The same holds true if I click over to our entities. I can decide to look at our business by function. So different roll-ups pertaining to manufacturing centers and sales and distribution. Or we have the flexibility to build our alternate hierarchies. So we have the structure based on region. So we can look at different entities that roll up to US and Canada or Europe. Now, thinking about not-for-profit structure, perhaps these dimensions aren't exactly in line with how you'd currently have your build or would envision a build. Perhaps it's more surrounding projects or grants, so not necessarily entities, but as well as like departments, year, period, scenario, those different staple dimensions that you need to store data, plan by data, and report on data. And so if we take a look at period roll-up, you can see we can house different roll-ups for half years, quarters, just to give you a visual on the structure within this data model. Okay, I think there was a question here. A question regarding NetSuite report writing. Melissa, are you able to take that one away?
I will follow up with them after the webinar.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. All right, so again, overview of the data modeler component. I'm going to step over to a business user, so logging into that task management screen under the contributor role and really focusing on reports. So selecting in here and taking a look at some of our operational reports. I did want to first speak to our actual corporate dashboard. So I'm going to open this up and we'll take a look at the file and how we then would connect it back to PowerPoint and Word documents. And so general theme, just trying to not assume that everybody on the call has seen everything that I'm speaking to. We leverage centralized reports and templates. So you'll notice there's a structure in the background for this report. However, we have yet to retrieve any data because we first need to confirm what sort of data we want to be able to consume in this report. And so thinking back to that data modeler role, the modeler tab within the application where we are looking at our data model, these are the dimensions that we've elected to have that additional flexibility to filter by. And so if I select into entity, again, this is the same hierarchical structure we saw within that data model. And so I can select a number of different rollups or individual entities to be able to consume data by. Again, we can look at alternate hierarchies and see the aggregation of all the data for these entities that roll up to the parent be completed based on our selection. So if I select organization by function, I'm going to capture all the bottom level entities and all the data that pertains to every single department for 2021 for this specific period and this scenario, that being budget. And so once I do select OK, this is where the report is calling back up all that information for us to then be able to report. Now, the reason I'm showing you this is because I want everybody to get a visual on some of our reports that we have here. And this is one of our corporate dashboards, right? And so effectively, once a dashboard or any form of chart or bar graph, pie chart, whatever it is, data table that needs to be connected to a PowerPoint deck or a Word deck for reporting purposes, simply being able to leverage those data visuals by copying and pasting them into one of your PowerPoint or Word files. And the great part is once you connect, for instance, if I were to connect one of these data visuals and simply copy and paste it into a PowerPoint that I intend to use as a board deck, I then, based in the application, so within Vena, I have the flexibility to choose, same feature here that you see, I'm able to choose how I want the information to appear within my PowerPoint file or my Word file. And so I'll get to that now. So stepping back to the browser here, if we think about the corporate dashboard, if I select to view this dashboard, this is giving me the flexibility to leverage 3 different dimensions from my data model, and so that I have the flexibility to change what entity view I want to look at. So how I want to consume data in this PowerPoint, well, it's going to do all the aggregation for me if I select all entities. If I select 2020, then that's the data it will retrieve from within Vena, as well as the full year. And so once you've established what data visuals that you want to connect into your PowerPoint, and the system will recognize which report that it's being built off of, you can choose to download a copy, view it online, or in PDF. So if I go PowerPoint Online, the second browser tab will open up, and I'm going to be able to consume this slide deck online to see what our business looks like based on how I've structured my report. And so in this example, we have 3 slides. We're pulling in income statements of our P&L structure here based on a full year and by quarter basis. And we have some basic charts down below to reference and make comparisons for what appears to be budget versus actual. And then a final tab here. So thinking about what you first really need to establish within a report and the data visuals that you have within those reports, you then simply connect them to that PowerPoint via a copy and paste. Stepping back to the browser, closing out of our dashboard here for our PowerPoint deck, I can take a look at our executive report. And so this is going to be a little bit different. I can filter again by different entities. So I can choose sales and distribution as an example this time. And if I'd like, I can do a download. So it's going to go to my desktop that I'm able to then provide out to the team. So opening this up, I have my home page. And then just scrolling down based on the information that I've selected in the drop-down menu, I'm able to produce the data that resides within our data model. And so any standard data visuals that have been established within those reports, again, are then connected into the file. Any questions thus far? I know I can speak continuously, but I'm happy to answer questions along the way or save them till the end.
We don't have any questions just yet, but just remember, if you do have a question, you can submit them in the Q&A box.
Perfect. Okay. So that would be, I would say, the basics of what a PowerPoint and a Word document that has been created within Vena would look like to an end user. So given my access into the application, I can go in and view those decks. If I were, just thinking about being able to build a report on the fly, we do have our ad hoc reporter here. And so what this is going to do is it's going to give me some flexibility into really retrieving data that I really want to be able to consume quickly and easily in a format that I so choose. So based on the data model that I had shown from within the data modeler, I'm going to select the Vena demo model here and hit apply. And just thinking about a standard pivot table, I just need to define what I want to see in the rows. So we could state that we want to see some accounts in the rows, and we'd like to see our periods in the columns. And then we can hit the pencil icon. So I'll just expand this out and further define based on our chart of accounts what it is exactly that we want to see. So we'll take a look at net income as an example and select descendants. And so we have 73 accounts selected, and I hit OK. And then in terms of our period, well, I'd like to see something a little more in depth than just full year. So I'm going to also select to see the different halves, quarters, and bottom level members. And so now we have 19 members selected. I hit OK, and I come up to the refresh button. And the system does all the aggregation for all the different entities in my business structure, departments, groups, subgroups, years, based on this view. And if I want, I can begin throwing on some filters. Maybe I don't want to look at the data as a total department view, but I want to break it out and just be more specific, right? So I can unselect that and I can just take a look at sales and service, hit refresh. So just another way to quickly and easily consume data in a report format for your team, whether it be on the fly or the report. The intention is to use this on an ongoing basis. So the individuals can save it locally. They can share it to other Vena members, at which point the connector screen will appear and they can too work within that report. So I'm going to close out of this. And I'm going to quickly step over to Power BI. Just speaking here briefly, I know, again, it's more focused on the reports and the packages that we produce. However, we do have a native connection to Power BI. And so all the data that resides within your data model can effectively be connected to Power BI and then consumed. Data sets can be produced, data visuals within the application here. And obviously Power BI is a very powerful tool. And so thinking about just anomaly detection, future forecasting, insights and analysis, being able to key in certain free-form text to produce suggestions to how your business is performing. If I want to select in here, I can see if I right click, I can analyze data, and then the tool will analyze why we had a decrease in 7.7% and provide me a further in-depth analysis that it's based on one of my subgroups within my business. Okay, so just giving a quick little visual into Power BI there. Now, I'm going to drop this down. I'm going to step back into our super user view within the application. And as I mentioned before, under the manager role here, log out, log back in. Stepping under the manager role, I just have some files library created under my annual budget process and under my reports folder. So we have the files library here on the left, and I have a reports folder. So this is, I would say, a little more in depth into how we go about making the connection. I have a very basic, I would say, dashboard report right here for today's example. And so if I open this up, you're going to see something. It's not fancy by any means, but I have the flexibility to choose what entity I want to consume data for and what department. And so I'll select OK. And you see here, I have two pie charts, one for my actuals and one for my forecast. And looking over here, we're just doing a comparison of actuals to forecast for two different accounts based on our choose options that were for New York and our sales and service department. Now, when I was mentioning before, it's a matter of simply copy and pasting into a PowerPoint file. Well, that's exactly what I meant. So if I open up my test presentation here, I'm going to just slide this over onto my screen. And you'll see here, these are the exact pie charts that I have that have been copied and pasted over into the PowerPoint deck. And so what I've done is I've connected this PowerPoint. Once I load it into Vena, it will connect these charts as well as these key highlighted labeled flags. So for entity, well, I want the selected entity to become an option when I choose my PowerPoint. For the department, I want that flexibility to be able to choose the department as well. And then I want to focus on a specific account, and I want to see the actuals reporting for 2020 and the dollar amount for the forecast. Okay, so this is the establishing of this PowerPoint deck. I close out of it because it's on my desktop. I return here, and then I'm going to go back to my browser within this manager screen, and I'm going to upload that PowerPoint from my local desktop. And so with those connected visuals from this dashboard data file and those keywords in the squiggly brackets, as I like to call them, once I open up the test presentation, the system recognizes that I have these different areas labeled within my PowerPoint, right? So I'm trying to be able to choose the entity. I'm trying to be able to choose the department. I am looking for values related to actuals and forecast. So I have that flexibility now based on the choose options from that dashboard file in the PowerPoint. And so if I go ahead and select download, I hope to see the New York entity for sales and service. So once I open this up, you'll notice those squiggly brackets no longer appear because the template, the PowerPoint deck, is looking up whatever option I had made in that choose option, is placing those words in my titles, and the values are returning as they are appearing for that report. So if I change back quickly to my Excel file, you can see here, we're making a comparison between those two values. So 94.5 and 93.7. So flipping back, you can see it's driving those numbers. If I return to the web, again, I have the flexibility to switch between departments. I'm not sure if I have any data here, but we'll take a look. So department D20, a lot lower. So department marketing, so D20 is marketing, and you can see the amounts have updated accordingly. Now, if I return here, these values are still showing for my New York and sales and service. So if I reflect the update here, I can quickly make that comparison to see that those are in fact the numbers, and my pie charts match according to the PowerPoint deck. And so establishing the build like this, once your repeatable board package has been produced and the visuals have been connected to the source report, then you can begin building out the report in a way that works best for your team. So I'm going to pause there. I didn't have too much more to go into unless the team that's listening in has a number of questions to start asking. So feel free to ask away.
We'll give it a minute.
Okay.
We don't have any questions that have come in just yet, but we welcome anyone that would like to ask questions. So we'll hang on for a minute. And if not, we can wrap it up. So we'll wait for just a moment. I don't have any questions coming in, Drew. So if you have anything else that you want to contribute, you can, or if not, like I said, I'll wrap it up and people can have some time back in their day.
I think from my end, I'm happy with what I've shown thus far. Obviously, if individuals would like to, speak a little bit further on the subject, then we can certainly have additional conversations or set up additional meetings. But the high-level overview of how, building out reports and then connecting them to our respective dashboards and dashboard PowerPoint decks and report packs is they've seen the fundamentals.
Wonderful. Well, I will take back control of the screen if you'll allow me.
Yep.
I have just a few more slides to show, and so then we'll wrap it up. All right. Can everyone see my slide? Okay, so thank you again for joining us today. We do have a promotion that we are offering. If you sign up for a demo by November 3rd, you'll receive $1,000 off Vena if you do move forward with it. So if you are interested, you can email us at webinars@jmtconsulting.com to schedule your demo. We will also be following up with you after the demo. You will see a survey once you exit the webinar today. We would love for you to contribute feedback to us. And I want to thank you for joining us today, and thank you, Drew, for your time. We are very grateful that you joined us today and hope that we'll have everyone on a future webinar. So thank you, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.
Happy to help, Melissa, and thanks for having me. And again, if there's any other additional questions that don't immediately come to mind, but individuals would like to speak about, feel free to reach out.
Wonderful. Thank you, and everyone have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.